Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football from chilly Atlanta and chilly Nashville, right? Tennessee is just as cold, if not colder. But if you're in California right now, it's 93 degrees still in Los Angeles. But everywhere else, there's a little bit of that first chill that you get. It's almost like winter. Forget fall. We just passed all the way through it. But this is your NFL wrap-up show. The Monday night game just finished a few moments ago. On the road, Philadelphia ends up winning in Green Bay, and by looking at the players and the sleeves, they aren't ready yet. They don't have that extra layer of fat going right now, but they've got extra shirts and everything. But Philadelphia's a winner, 10-7. Joey Clinkscales is with us, former general manager, player personnel director, scout. He's cleaned trash cans, and he's also made big executive decisions. We're so glad he's with us. And our NFL and college analyst, Brian LeBel, he takes out the trash all the time, too. I don't have to, but glad to have you both with us. And Joey, first and foremost, not the most exciting game of the weekend. There were a couple of duds if you're looking for high offense. There were plenty of games that had high offense, but in terms of this one, Philadelphia goes out on the road. It's kind of a semi-playoff game. They get it done. They get to have a nice plane trip home. They get a few hours off before they got to go back to work again, but that's a nice road win for the 7-2 Philadelphia Eagles.
If you are a fan of defense, this was a great game to watch. You know, offensively, I think the quarterbacks kind of set the league back a couple years, if I'm being
a generation or two. Is it Sammy Baugh, slinging Sammy Baugh? Is he out there in Y.A. Tittle?
Hey, not quite that bad, but they were certainly in the highlights, that's for sure. But defensively, you know, this was a great game to watch. I mean, Green Bay obviously is a great defensive team, and the Eagles, with the kid from Miami that they got in the trade, played really well today. They got, I think his name is Nolan Smith. They got him back. He played well today. So defensively, the Eagles are really heading in the right direction. And again, Green Bay is a really good football team. You know, some of the concerns I have about Jordan Love, I came out of this game probably with as many, if not more, concerns for the simple fact is he's got elite talent as a quarterback, elite talent. He just doesn't show that talent in games when he need to show it. So that's some of my concerns with him. And Jalen Hurts didn't play. He didn't play lights out either, but they did just enough to win the football game. And at the end of the day, that's all you need to do is
Joey, I'm not a narcissist. I don't want to blame everybody else but myself. But is there a little bit of blame when you have an elite quarterback and he does not have an elite offensive line? He does not have elite wide receivers. He does not have elite running game. Is there a little bit of that shifts into this equation that says, I'm not justifying it, but I'm hearing you say he needs to play better. He needs to play up to his potential. And then maybe the other guys around him will play better. But right now he can't depend on the other guys. Is there a fair share of the way we look at it there?
Yes, but I think Green Bay's offensive line is better than most for sure. I don't think it's elite, and looked like they lost the center tonight later in the game. However, Jordan just has to play better. I mean, week in and week out, if you look at the games they've had, the loss to Cleveland, you've had other games where numerically he's done just enough for them to win. He's ever since the Dallas game where he threw for a lot of yards, he really has played just average football. They've kind of played to the level of their competition a lot this season. And ultimately in big games, you have to be able to, you have to be able to uplift your team. Your quarterback is the leader of that team. And I'm not sure at this point that Jordan Love can take the Packers where they need to go. Now, that being said, they had two receivers out tonight. Golden was out, and then I think Dobbs got hurt in the game. So they have some issues from an injury standpoint, like a lot of teams do this time of year. However, I just think Jordan Love needs to elevate his level of play.
Brian, first and foremost, you've got a team in Green Bay that is 3-2 at home. Is that a surprise to you at all at this point in the season that they don't have that same type of domination in Lambeau that they have in the past?
Well, this is like a cold weather slugfest. If you were to talk about a game that the Packers are like, hey, this is the kind of game we want to host late in the year, right? This is what they're built for. You go out and you bring in Parsons to be able to play defense and stop the run and get after Jalen Hurts, which they did. And then you bring in all this talent at receiver. Now, like Joey said, some of them were banged up. But, this is a game that realistically, if you're a Packers fan, these are the kinds of games you want to play in, right? It's home field advantage. It's the cold weather. Now, Philly is also accustomed to this, right? And they've been playing a lot of late January games as well. But it's one of those things where it seems like the offense just hasn't clicked. And Tucker Kraft getting hurt last week sets you back. But, Watson comes back. He's got to get right. And, he's been out for a long time. Golden being banged up. He's still young. They got to try to assimilate it. Josh Jacobs has done a phenomenal job hiding a lot of the issues and discrepancies on this offense, at least till this point. But, at some point they're going to have to get it going. They just lost sole possession of first place in the division. The Detroit Lions just overtook them. So that's something that, maybe the urgency, the red lights or the check engine sign has come on now, right? Like, hey, maybe we need to figure something out. But I don't think they're a bad football team. I think they got a ton of talent. And I think Jordan Love is a phenomenal quarterback. But they look a lot like the Eagles a couple weeks ago because we were kind of dogging on them, right? They don't really have a vertical passing attack. It's a lot of short stuff. It's a lot of relying on the running back and, the offensive line to be dominant up front. And just unfortunately with a team like Philadelphia and how good they are. And, we mentioned Joey did Phillips played a great game. Nolan Smith comes in. He was fantastic. The whole defense was very, very good. And it's just like at a certain point, you know what I mean? When you play a team that's as talented as you are, you're going to have to play well. You're going to have to make some plays. And unfortunately the Packers just tonight, by the score, you could tell they didn't really do that much at all.
Let's take a quick look at the numbers. Jordan Love was 20 of 36. He had 176 yards in the air. He averaged 4.9 per attempt. No touchdowns, no interceptions. He was sacked 3 times. You mentioned Josh Jacobs. 21 carries for him, 74 yards totally, averaged 3.5, which is probably a little below average, Joey, I'd say, but he did have the only touchdown. Christian Watson had 2 receptions for 45 yards. Dontavian Wicks had 4 for 38. Josh Jacobs had 5 for 33. Nothing really outstanding. So kind of blah, right? When you look at it real quick with Jalen Hurts, he was 15 of 26, 183 yards. He did have a touchdown, no interceptions. He was not sacked. So clean pocket for him here tonight. Saquon had 22 carries for 60 yards. Jalen had 5 carries for 27. They had 111 yards on the ground, 183, as I mentioned, on the ground. Devonta Smith had 4 receptions for 69 yards. He had a touchdown. Dallas Goedert had 4 for 43. So not a whole lot anywhere. Is the weather the biggest thing, Joey, that they had to worry about? Was it just sloppy? Was it a late Monday night game? Everybody was cold, a little bit of whatever. But nonetheless, Green Bay couldn't get it done at home. And that, to me, could be a difference maker as we get closer to where the playoffs are. If they can't win at home, I don't know what the advantage is for Green Bay other than their defensive line.
Yeah, well, I'll reiterate. I think this was a really good football game from the standpoint of 2 really good defenses played tonight. And when you have defenses can lead you to a championship, just ask the 2000 Ravens. Defense can take you a long way. And I'm not saying these defenses are comparable to that team. However, the quarterback play was average at best. Both teams ran the ball when they needed to, not great, but just when they needed to. And Jalen Hurts made more big plays than Jordan Love made. I mean, he hit Devontae Smith a couple times, once for the touchdown, once on an over route, which was pretty nice. And, he hit the tight end 3 or 4 times on big plays, which is one of the things that Green Bay couldn't do, go down the field to the tight end because Kraft was out, and they're really going to miss Kraft this year.
Yep.
Yeah. Joey, before I go to Brian, 5-3-1 the Packers are. Brian just mentioned a moment ago that Detroit ended up overtaking them. They leapfrog and they're in first place. Does that tie become an advantage or a disadvantage if we get closer to the playoffs? They have 1 fewer losses, but they don't have as many wins. How do you judge that tie compared to obviously, for those that don't know, Dallas and Green Bay tied about 5-6 weeks ago, and they're the only 2 teams in the league right now that have that tie. How does that come into play?
Well, if they're not leading if they aren't leading the division, then it's going to be a negative because they're going to lose every tiebreaker to every team that they're even with. So and Chicago's on the heels.
No kidding.
Yeah, so that's the issue. I mean, you can worry about Detroit, but Chicago's on the heels. So that may become problematic the further along we get in the season, that tie.
Well, we'll look at the standings at the end of the show. But, Brian, at 7-2 right now, Philadelphia is sitting in the catbird seat right now in terms of the division. But also I'm thinking in terms of the conference. They've got a comfortable lead there. And I think they're right where they need to be. Even though Eagle fans say, I can't believe we lost those 2 games. I get it, Eagle fans. It's okay, though. Where you're sitting right now, especially with the injury rate and some other things that are going on right now, they're in a pretty good spot, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the only concern right now for the Eagles is whether or not Lane Johnson's okay. He kind of got hit in the knee. It was a little awkward. They had maybe the goofiest cart of all time, maybe the smallest one. It looked like a go-kart that they were wheeling him around in to get him to the locker room. I don't know if they got budget cuts in Lambeau or whatever that is, but it's you're 7-2, right? It was they had 2 losses early in the year, and I can't remember how many games in a row they've won, but it was the sky is falling because the offense didn't look great. It still doesn't look spectacular. I think there were really 2 or 3 plays in this game. The touchdown to Devontae Smith was a big one, but if you take those away, the Packers and the Eagles had a very similar offensive game. This was an ugly game, but both defenses are very good. And the Eagles went out the deadline and said, hey, we're going to make sure that we have the right tools in order to go for, a title defense. And Phillips was a tremendous addition. They're going to get healthy and they're only going to improve. I think the only issue is just stay healthy on their offensive front. Continue to improve there every single week. It's kind of looking like Devontae Smith might be the wide receiver 1 there over A.J. Brown right now, just with the consistency and if he's still a little bit banged up. But you're 7-2 and you're sitting in the driver's seat. I don't think you could have a better, continuation of what they did last year if you're the Eagles.
Joey, they were 4-0. They'd beaten the Cowboys, Chiefs, Rams, and Buccaneers, respectively. They lose 2 in a row to Denver and the Giants of all people, kind of badly. It was 34-17 was the final there at the Meadowlands. And then since then, they've beaten the Vikings, the Giants again, the Packers. They've got the Lions, Cowboys, Bears, and Chargers in the next month. The Raiders are also on that. Still a pretty good, if I'm looking, they may lose the Detroit game. It's at home, but they could go 3-1 or possibly 4-0, depending on how they play against the Bears. Pretty good. They're horizon for them. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're in a great spot. I mean, I'm not really super concerned about the Eagles right now because defensively they're going to get better, and offensively they're just going to do enough. So I won't be really concerned with the Eagles until we get into the playoffs, because at some point in the playoffs you're going to have to put some points on the board, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that. At least they haven't shown the propensity to do that in bunches right now. So, but again, their defense can carry them a long way.
Sure can. Yeah, you don't need to score when you don't give up any points. You just need a field goal or a safety. I know that's the old Bill Parcells line. Hey, if they don't score on us, we can't lose. We can tie, but we can't lose. All right, well, let's look at some teams that took the week off. Cincinnati, there's some pretty good news. You guys want to talk about that a little bit. Cowboys are off. Titans, they needed a break. And then Kansas City, of course, are the 4 bye teams. Brian, I'll start with you. Some pretty good news, I guess, if you want to call it that, with Joe Burrow there in Cincinnati.
Yeah, his 21-day window is open to be activated to the roster. So I think he said Thanksgiving. I'm not sure if they play on Thanksgiving. I have to look at the schedule, but that might be a short week for them. I'm not 100% certain they'd throw him out there then. But the way this division is shaping up, he said it. He's like, they're still in the thing, which is very weird for the AFC North. The Ravens are still there. They're competitive. The Steelers had kind of a bad loss on Sunday night. So AFC North is wide open. And if the Bengals can hang around for another couple more weeks, you're looking back on those 2 ugly losses that they had before this, just kind of heartbreaking fashion. If they could have flipped those games where this team could be a month from now, but just kind of hanging on and hoping they can still be in the thing when Burrow comes back.
Yeah, and Joey, for me, let's look at the other end of this chart, and we'll talk about the Chiefs. They always say, the bye came at just a perfect time and all that. I don't know. Look, they started slow. They're kind of a little mundane coming out of the box, but they've gotten a little bit hotter. And I'm anticipating that after the break, the Chiefs are going to be in full swing. Your thoughts regarding Kansas City and their pace that they're using to try to get to be playoff ready?
Yeah, I think they'll be ready. And the reason why I say that is because the last game they played that they lost in Buffalo, the offensive line play was not very good. And they had injuries. One of their best offensive linemen, the rookie left tackle who had been out on personal leave, his practice, he's back. And that will shore up because he was playing pretty good before he went out. That should shore up the left side of the line. And that way they can then kind of focus in other areas. So I think although it's cliche to say it, I do think the bye came at the right time for Kansas City.
Well,
now I really would have hoped that they had gotten a running back by the trade deadline, which they
Yeah.
didn't. I do think they still needed help there. So I'll be interested to see if the fact that they have their whole offensive line intact, that they will be able to run the ball better.
Yeah. Well, every year is different. Obviously, you got a different roster and everything like that, and your needs change. But evidently, there wasn't the right guy for the right price. But let's look at what happened last week. That's what we do here on the wrap-up show. Let's take a look at another game, same score. Brian, you were going to say we had two of the most yawner type games that you could have. Denver holds on at home. I know they're grateful that Will Lutz is in the lineup. He was 1 for 2 in terms of his field goal kicking, but a 10-7 win. The Raiders fall to 2-7, and the Broncos keep pace. They are 8-2 right now.
Yeah.
Good place to be in Denver, isn't it?
Well, Broncos have the Chiefs this week, but offense wasn't great. Defense was as good as they needed to be against the Raiders team. That's, they moved Jacoby Myers, so he's no longer there. The offense was very, very mundane. Geno Smith got banged up in this one, but I think the best player on the field for the Raiders is their punter. I think he had 2 kicks inside the 1 yard line, which I hadn't seen. I hadn't seen anybody do that before. At least I think it was back to back, but it's an ugly division win, so you kind of excuse it. But if you turn on the tape, the Broncos have a lot to clean up. Especially because they got Kansas City this week. They got a couple extra days to prepare for it. The Chiefs are coming off a bye, so it kind of evens out a little bit. But that's a huge game for them because if they win that one, they're in the driver's seat of the division. You can kind of all but wrap up potentially the division title, at least a playoff spot for them, which would be huge. Depending on, if we remember where the Broncos were 2 years ago, man, this team was dead in the water. And the turnaround they've had, and Sean Payton and Bo Nix, just everything. Nothing too flashy, but it's one of those things where the Broncos are just consistently in a position where they do enough to win the game. And against the bad teams that, you kind of look down upon it and you frown at it. But when you're doing it against the Chiefs and you're doing it against some teams that are playoff caliber and you keep doing it in January and potentially February, it doesn't look quite as bad.
Yeah, Chiefs and Chargers, obviously just in the division, Joey. You've been in the Raiders organization. You know the folks that put the silver and the black, and they've got the shoulder pads with the spikes on and everything. They're 1-4 on the road. If you want to go see the Las Vegas Raiders play, you may not want to bring all your gear with you and just kind of sit with maybe a Raiders T-shirt on. I don't know. They're certainly struggling in so many different ways. Real quick, Geno Smith threw for 143 yards, kind of average air, no touchdowns. He had an interception. He was sacked 6 times. They rushed for 74 yards total. Ashton Gente had 60 of those. And Brock Bowers just had a kind of a regular game there. Ho-hum, Raiders, if you're not going to bring it, and I'm a part of the Denver defense, I'm going to make you pay.
Well, I'm going to say this again, despite the stats. Brock Bowers is the best tight end in football, okay? And they really did not target him enough in this game.
Yep, right.
Geno did not target him enough in this game. I mean, I would have fed him until his tongue was dragging.
Yeah.
That being said, defensively, the Raiders did not play a bad game. You give up 10 points to the Broncos, you have to be happy. That being said, the Broncos quarterback did not play his best football game for sure. But defensively, Denver is probably in the top 3 or 4 best defensive in the league. I mean, they lead the league in sacks. Coming into this game, they had like 40, and I believe, if my memory serves me correct, which it may not be. And then they leave the game with 6-7 sacks in this game. So they just keep with Benito and those guys that keep being able to rush the passer and get to the quarterback. And they made Geno look bad often, which at times is not real bad to do because his base and his footwork looked really bad in this game. But a lot of times that was because he was under pressure and really playing too fast.
They've showed signs of life. The Raiders have, but Brian, most often not. They end up falling short. They're learning to lose in a way that I know a lot of fans that are really loyal to the club would have some struggles with.
Yeah, it was coming to the season when you add Geno Smith, right, and you give him the extension. The idea is we're trying to win, right? And they on paper they had a pretty good roster. You bring in Gene T and you say, hey, he's going to be our workhorse. He's going to be our bell cow. That's something that they were lacking for a while there. Ever since Josh Jacobs left town. You have Brock Bowers, who I agree with Joey. I think he's the best tight end in the game. Jacoby Myers is a very good receiver. I don't know if he's number 1. He's a very solid receiver, though. the idea is we can at least compete. We got Max Crosby, who's arguably a top 3 or 4 defender in the league. And they're in a lot of these games. They're in the game against Denver. They're in the game against Jacksonville. They lost. They went for 2. I commend it, right? Hey, we got nothing to lose at this point. Let's go for 2 and try to win it. But they got to figure some out, just tweak 1 or 2 things. They got to start turning some of these close losses into close wins, which, a lot of teams do that, right? It's not just them. And it's one of the hardest things to do in football, to learn how to win is a pretty difficult skill, and very few coaches, very few players have it. And that's why they're at the top, and that's why they get paid what they do. But, the Raiders are entering some pretty rough waters as they are right now. And just try to right the ship. I don't say you punt the season, but, we're not at the same level as Denver. We're not at the same level as Kansas City or even the Chargers right now. We got a lot to figure out.
Well, trepidation is what my description of what the waters are like. I'm so used to seeing Pete Carroll on the sideline, and every time they get
chewing the gum,
he's chewing that gum, and he's giving a fist, and he's boy, and his broken nose is going all over the place, and his headphones, and there's just not a whole lot of gum chewing for Pete right now. It's tough times for him, but a close game, but nonetheless another loss. Raiders fall to 2-7, and again, the Broncos are surprising, folks, but they're not a surprise. They are a good football team. Start paying attention to the Denver Broncos. All right, let's look at the first game from yesterday, which takes place in Berlin, Germany. I just can't say enough about the offensive line for the Indianapolis Colts. They are graders. I mean, they move people around. I saw Quentin Bent. Oh my gosh, he finished and landed head first, shoulders into one of the guys. Oh my, it's just fantastic. Jonathan Taylor, catch this, folks. If you don't have him on your fantasy team, why? 32 carries, 244 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. He was averaging 7.6. Joey, I'm just telling you right now, the game went to overtime, but I'm dealing with a video guy right now. The Bo Jackson type thing, the Darrell Greens back in the day when you're playing Tecmo Bowl. I'm old enough to remember the earliest Tecmo Bowls. Jonathan is just impressive, but his offensive lineman is even more impressive. Am I right?
Well, as I've said many times, the Colts have a really good offensive line, and when you win football games, you can point directly at the offensive and defensive lines, and they've been able to dominate on both sides of the line, but especially on the offensive side of the ball, because they've been able to run the ball better than anybody in the league this year. Jonathan Taylor is putting up LaDainian Tomlinson type numbers from a standpoint of touchdowns during the season, and even yards. I mean, he's having a special season so far. So if
will it be an asterisk real quick? I want to. Will you always have an asterisk if he gets over 2,000 and he breaks OJ's or anybody's record for having an extra game? Is that a tainted number now that we look at it?
I think you have to. You do have to put it in this proper perspective, because he does have an extra game, and if we're being honest, Saquon sat out a game and then didn't play a second half of a game last year. So really, the 2,000 yards he put up, he really put up in 15 and a half games because he didn't play 17. So, he
didn't care about the record. He
didn't care about the record. It wasn't important. And I'm not sure if Indianapolis gets so far ahead of this thing that Jonathan Taylor will care about the record. I think for these guys, especially who have never tasted this kind of success, that winning is the most important thing. I don't think the record will mean a whole lot to him if the Colts have this thing in the bag and he can sit down and rest a little.
Well, we'll also have to tease agents if they forgot to put a leading rusher or an NFL career yardage breaker in as an incentive in the contract. Shame on you, because you never know, especially with that offensive line. You should have planned ahead. Brian, you're more of a Falcon fan first and foremost. They fall to 3-6. It goes to overtime, but the New England and then this overseas game, they're going to be glad to go home, but obviously 2 tough losses that they've had in the last couple of weeks. Chances to try to catch up to Tampa seem to be fleeting out of the trepidatious waters that they're swimming in right now.
Unfortunately, I think it's kind of gone in the wrong direction if you're the Falcons right now, just because if you look at week one, it was a very competitive, very good game. They lose a close one, right? You have a missed field goal, you lose to Tampa Bay, and you think, okay, the idea is you watch the film, you learn what you're doing. And much like what I said with the Raiders, it's the close games, right? You got to figure out how to win those games. And, Atlanta, you look at their last month of games, they're a lot, the exception of the Miami game, they're in all these games. They were in the Patriots game. They could have won that game. They could have won on Sunday. They take the lead with less than 2 minutes left, and they couldn't get a stop. The Colts kind of did whatever they wanted on offense. It's just Daniel Jones, when you have Jonathan Taylor to hand the ball to and the offensive line that we talked about, it's just, we can run the ball as much as we need to, and it's incredibly successful. But, unfortunately for Atlanta right now, they're just not figuring it out. They're not learning how to win. Phoenix's completion percentage was real poor. They didn't really have a lot of verticality in their passing game. Now, some of that's on the receivers. Darnell Mooney dropped a couple balls, but Falcons are just kind of moving in the wrong direction. Fortunately, Tampa Bay and Carolina both had bad losses as well. But, it's you don't have your first round pick next year, and the season's it's slipping away from you pretty quickly. So,
yeah. Penix was 12 for 28, Brian, 177 yards. That's okay, 6.3 yards per average. He had one touchdown, no interception, sacked 3 times. They rushed for 140 yards. Nothing wrong with that. Tyler Algier had 2 touchdowns on the ground. But granted, they were both shorties, but 84 for Bijan, 57 for Tyler. But nothing compares. Daniel Jones, 255 yards on 19 completions and 323 total yards on the ground. Again, that's video game stuff right there. You're talking about, Madden 25 tournament when somebody gets those types of numbers.
When you can run the ball, you can win a lot of football games.
Yes, you can.
You have to be able to run the ball. You can only throw it so many times. If you can run the ball, you can win a lot of football games. That means your offensive line is dominating.
Yeah, you get to control it. Well, speaking of dominating, Indianapolis goes 8-2 right now. They're in the catbird seat. Very nice waters that they're swimming in right now. After a loss last week, they bounced back in Germany, and we'll see how they progress throughout the season. But obviously, they're up in the leader for the conference, not just their division. Next game we want to look at, Chicago hosts the New York Giants. I'll start with you, Brian. Rough day for the Giants for many different reasons. They end up losing the game, but more importantly, their quarterback gets injured, taken off the field. I don't know if you have an update or not, anything, but 24-20 is the final. Giants fall to 2-8. Bears are 6-3 right now. Good spot for the Bears. Give me your comments on this one.
Giants looked really good in the first half. They kind of controlled the game. They built on it. They had a really good third quarter. They just kind of fell apart once Jackson Dart got knocked out. He's got a concussion. I don't know if he'll be ready next week, but it's one of those things where it ended up. I don't know if this was the game that ends up costing Brian Dabble his job, but ownership had kind of seen enough. And then obviously what happens, and unfortunately he's gone. But your star quarterback, who you invest a first round pick in, he's already had 3 injuries on the year. One of them is a concussion. He's taken a lot of hits. He's run more than just about anybody at the position. It's getting to the point where, you got to be able to protect your young players. Scatterbo gets hurt a couple weeks prior with a really nasty injury, and the Giants just seemingly, Malik Neighbors as well. Everyone's out, and it's really tough to win that way. But, this is a game they had. This is one of those games where if you're looking at it, you're trying to move in the right direction, what the Giants have been trying to do for a long time under Brian Dabble. They try to do it with Daniel Jones. They're trying to do it with Jackson Dart. It's something that at least builds some momentum to go out there, get a good win on the road against a very good Bears team, and then they just can't find a way to get it done. And I think it was just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, unfortunately, when it comes to Brian Dabble's time in New York.
Caleb Williams, 20 for 36, 220 yards, 1 touchdown, no interception. They rushed for 171 yards. Joey, enough to win. A good second half. They score 17 of their 24 points in the second half, and they hold the Giants to 10. We mentioned the injuries a little bit, but let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, Joey, about the confidence building now that's taking place in Chicago. They're learning to win the tough games, and that, to me, is the first step of being able to get your team and the momentum and all the garbage that may have happened for 1, 3, 5 years, get it out, and just you got to change the culture and change the mindset. And it appears that they're doing a much better job, at least than they were just 365 days ago last year at this point. They're a completely different football team.
Absolutely, without question. Last year, they were losing these games.
Yeah.
And it started with the Hail Mary they lost to versus the Commanders last year. And they kind of went downhill from that point on. This year, they're finding ways to win those close games. I mean, Caleb continues to improve. I mean, he played an efficient game, especially in the second half, where I mean he was able to use his feet, make big plays, running the ball, getting out of trouble. He made a couple passes, big time passes down the middle of the field. So he's continuing to grow as a player, and now you're able to see some of his natural ability other than just scrambling. I mean, he made some really confident throws in the second half of this game. And they're able to protect him. I mean, the line is getting better. They're improving defensively. They played a pretty good game yesterday. They did some really good things. And it's unfortunate from the Giants' standpoint that Dayball was canned. However, you know, they've lost a lot of close games this year as well. Defensively, they hadn't played as well as they should have, given the amount of talent that they have. They've had a ton of injuries. Ultimately, he needed to find a way to protect the young quarterback more. I mean, he's been in concussion protocol in that tent 4 times.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not going to say that became the undoing, but, you know, they have a lot of problems. And I'm surprised about what I heard today is about the fact that they're keeping the general manager. And he's going to lead the search. I mean, the general manager is part of the problem, not part of the solution. And when you give up on Daniel Jones, who's playing great, when you give up on Saquon Barkley, who won a championship last year, I'm not sure that was completely on the head coach. And I think if you're giving the head coach a little credit, I think he was the one that pushed for Jackson Dart.
Yes,
so,
yeah.
All things being equal, there was enough blame to be spread around with both guys. And I understand if you're keeping the general manager through the end of the season, like some teams do, I get that. But I'm not sure a new coach that comes in there will want to work with that general manager. Just like what happened in Jacksonville, because Jacksonville had every intent on keeping their general manager, but the head coach they wanted was not going to come with that general manager. So they had to do a complete overhaul. And I think that's probably what the Giants need as well.
Yeah, real fragile relationship, Brian, there. Before we move on, I know you were going to make a comment or two. Go ahead.
No, just what Ben Johnson has done to Caleb Williams. I don't think it's necessarily tweaked anything. I just think Caleb's playing with a lot of confidence. And I think that's something he didn't have last year. And I think it shows up. I think that's why the Bears are playing so much better. They're running the ball better. It doesn't really matter who's getting involved. They're sprinkling it to everybody in the offense. It's pretty fun to watch. And if you're a Bears fan, it's exciting because you haven't had an offense like this in maybe ever, right? In a long time. And they're very young. They continue to grow. And kudos to Ben Johnson for what he's doing very early, right? Very, very young coaching career as far as being the head man. And he's doing a tremendous job in Chicago right now.
You know, it's interesting you say that. If it's just a little bit of a tweak, not in his style, but in between his ears. Yeah. Hey, Caleb, what'd you see on that one? He goes, well, I thought I saw the safety move, so I was going to throw to that corner route. He goes, that's a good read. Zip it. Why aren't you letting it fly, dude? I've seen how you throw in practice. You do that in the game. And just something as simple as that, to have your coach believe in you and say, I see what you're doing, and I like it. Let's just do it. Let's pinpoint it. Let's get a little bit better. Let's rifle this instead of shotgunning it.
Do it with conviction. I had a coach at Tom Moore who used to say that all the time.
Tom Moore, wow.
If you can do it with conviction.
Yeah, let's go, right? And what a difference. Brian, you mentioned that Detroit has leapfrogged Green Bay for first place. Guess who's also right there with them? So
Lions right there,
and the Bears are 6-3. They're in first place, and 5-3-1 is the Green Bay Packers. So the times they are changing, as Bob Dylan used to sing, and it's interesting to see how this has benefited the city of Chicago the way that they are right now. Bills are a mess right now. Who wants to take this first? Brian, I'll go start with you. Bills are 6-3, which isn't a bad spot to be. But they couldn't get anything right. Or did Miami just dominate in that 30-13? Dolphins are 3-7 right now, but 30-13. And what were they up? 16-0 at half. And they outscored them in the second half. Brian, again, I'll start with you. Buffalo, you tell me what's going on there.
Kind of night and day. This isn't the same team we saw beat up on Carolina a couple weeks ago. This was.
Well, what about Kansas City? Just a week
Yeah,
ago?
this was. I was gonna say this is. I think we're in a position right now where the Bills might be a team guilty of playing down to their competition. They may have overlooked this game. This might be, hey, listen, it's on us. And before they woke up, maybe they come out in the second half and say, okay, we kind of figured it out. But when you're already down 16-0 and you start as poorly as they did, Josh Allen wasn't really completing any passes. They couldn't run the ball. They weren't protecting him very well. It's just a plethora of things. And we're talking about a Miami Dolphins team who just traded one of their best pass rushers too. They've kind of gutted their defense a good bit, trying to build for the future because they've kind of not given up on the season, but they're saying, hey, brighter times are ahead, and we want to get some assets to try to, infuse some talent in this roster down the road. But, I will give credit to the Dolphins because they played them tough early in the year. They always play them tough, and it's a division game, and you're always going to get the other team's best because they're so used to playing against you, and they've seen it so many times. There's only so many different schemes and things you can throw at them to try to confuse them. But this looked like a game, unfortunately, too, where Mike McDaniel looked like he outcoached. He outcoached he outcoached McDormand just a little bit there. I'm not too worried about it if on the Bills, maybe a little hiccup, but 2 of your 3 losses right now are the Atlanta Falcons, who are 3-6, the Miami Dolphins, who are 3-7. So when it comes playoff time, when you look at seeding and the New England Patriots keep winning, those 2 losses might come back to bite them in the butt a little bit.
Well, they didn't have a point at the end of the third quarter. They get 13, but too little too late. The game was pretty much over. Josh Allen throws for 306 yards. He's got 2 touchdowns, 40 pass attempts total, but that's because they had to do it. Joey, is this one, like Brian said, that you just you throw the film away and you say forget it, and now we got to move forward?
No, I think Buffalo has a couple glaring concerns, and one of them is every time Josh Allen turns the ball over, whether it be by interception or by fumble, they don't play well. They lose football games. Secondly, they don't really have a go-to receiver on the outside. And lastly, I think they lost their best tight end, Schultz. Did he get hurt in the game and did not come back? So if that's the case, they're really going to struggle a little bit going down the stretch because they don't have anybody going down the middle of the field to open it up for the outside guys. They ran the ball decently, but Miami on the flip side of that, Devon Achane played really well for them, and Tua was decent. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna take a step back. I'm gonna give the Dolphins credit because the one thing they didn't do is they have not punted on the season. Those guys have come in. They continue to play hard. They act like they want to win football games, and they go out and they show it on the field. And just the emotion that they showed after the game in the locker room. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I did.
It was really a good thing because those guys, they're true professionals, and that's all you want. You want to be able to compete, and they haven't always competed well this year, but they did versus the Bills. Like you said, it's a division game, and I'm going to give them credit because they did compete and they showed up.
Interesting to see if that little players-only meeting that they had actually has some benefits. Maybe not right at the moment, but some things certainly turning around, for the Dolphins. I'm not talking playoffs or anything like that, but just salvaging the season, playing really well, interviewing for other jobs, so to speak, by showing everybody what you can do, regardless of whatever it is. That was an impressive win against the Bills there in Miami. All right, next game we're going to look at Ravens and Vikings. This is the Purple People Eater game, but let's do this first. Let's talk about the Ravens. Joey, I'll start with you. They're 4-5. Are they coming back from the dead? Is there a pulse? Is this a team that we're going to probably have to really look out for right now, and they're going to play like crazy until they get to the finish line at the end of the season to make the playoffs? 27-19 is the final. Vikings fall to 4-5. 4-5 also is Baltimore's record, but where they were just a month ago, this is a completely different team. Well,
the Ravens will be a team to be reckoned with for sure because with Lamar Jackson playing, I think he threw 3 or 4 touchdowns the other day. He played really well. The tight end is getting involved again. Defensively, they're playing better, and that's the key. Early in the season, especially the first game when they lost to Buffalo, the defense wasn't playing well. Now the defense is playing better. And as long as the defense plays better and you give Lamar Derrick Henry an opportunity to play fast break downhill football, you're going to be in a lot of games. And I think the Ravens are picking up steam.
It wasn't perfect, Brian, but the Ravens offensively 152 yards on the ground. Derrick Henry 20 touches. Lamar had 9 himself. Keaton Mitchell had 4 for 31 yards, so they could push the ball down the field. You were talking a little bit earlier tonight about the formula for the way the Ravens play. They're going to be a run first, run second team, but anywhere between 15, 25 carries for Derrick is ideal if things are going your way. And Lamar throws for 176 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He was only sacked once.
Well, that's all of Harbaugh's tenure. When they're at their best, they run the ball really well. They can Lamar is phenomenal at play action, especially when he's going to the tight ends. Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely are phenomenal, especially in the red area. When you can run the ball really well and they have to bring an extra guy in the box, because Derrick Henry's the guy we forget about, how well he's done, and he's been incredibly consistent, and he stayed well, even though the Baltimore had no idea what they were doing for a couple weeks there at quarterback and on defense. But when you can do that, and Harbaugh did it with Flacco, he's doing it with Lamar Jackson. When you have the ability to run the ball, you can stop the team against you from running the football, which they did a pretty good job of on Sunday. It's a formula for success. It's tried and true. It's proven. It's something they've done for a long time there. And if they can start doing that, you can shorten the game and you can kind of beat anybody, right? You have confidence to beat anybody. If you can execute your game plan and you can get in rhythm, which I don't think Lamar's even close to being back in rhythm. He looked really good on Thursday night, like Joey mentioned. He had a phenomenal game against the Dolphins that just stifled Josh Allen. But when he gets to 100% and they get the offense clicking again, they're 4-5 right now, and they're already kind of looking scary. Give it another month, and if they keep climbing, this is a team that may very well end up hosting a playoff game when it's all said and done, and they could give a lot of teams a lot of problems if they can play their game and execute their game plan.
Yeah, not that 27 is a bad amount of points, but when they start getting 35 and in the 40s and really start to dominate offensively, and they're driven in a different way because they started coming out of the blocks so slowly. But very interesting there. As I mentioned, 4-5 for the Ravens, 4-5 for the Vikings. All right, I'm going to call this one the who gets the first pick in the draft bowl. The Cleveland goes to New York. Jets, Jets. Joey, you've heard that many a time. 27-20 is the final there. Both teams are now 2-7. Give me your thoughts here on New York getting a win at home.
Well, they were they in New York or were they out of the country? I think they were out of the country. But either way, New York, the quarterback threw for 70-something. He was 6 for 11 for
it wasn't pretty.
54 yards.
Yeah, 54 yards. I mean, and you win a football game, but you win that football game because you were able to
I can count all the passes he completed on 2 hands, okay? Just 5, and then we added another. Hey, this is an NFL quarterback. He goes 6 for 11.
The third factor in the game, special teams paid big dividends for the New York Football Jets because they had a punt return for a touchdown, a kickoff return for a touchdown, and the defense did just enough. And they ran the ball, decently, not super, but they ran it decently. And I'm pretty sure they controlled. And I didn't look, but I'm assuming when you can do that, you can control the time of possession a little bit. However, I'm not sure where Cleveland goes from here because, again, defensively, they're a pretty good team. If you take those 2 returns out, then inevitably they almost shut this team out. So defensively, if you're a Cleveland Brown, you have to be extremely frustrated. You really do. So I'm not sure where they go, the Browns. I know where the Jets go. The Jets go to quarterback either this year or next year. And quite honestly, if there's not a quarterback I'm super in love with, I mean, that I really believe that can turn my franchise around, then I'm going to move on from Justin. I may give up a 3rd-round pick for a Kyler Murray or someone, and wait on the next year and get me a quarterback in the draft if that's the way I'm feeling. But the Jets won, and I'm happy for them. And I said they will probably be it'll probably be hard for them to get to 3 wins, and halfway through the season. I'm still thinking it's going to be hard for them to get 3 wins, but
Well, they're 2/3 of the way there, Joey.
They're almost there. They're almost
exactly.
there.
And I'm not sure Cleveland's going to get the 3 wins either. So it's
Yeah.
it's some ugly football being played right now.
Hey, Brian, I think Joey put his GM hat on there just a little bit there. We're talking about some of the deep stuff and draft picks and getting the right quarterback and making sure it's good. Real quick, give me your thoughts here on Cleveland. They fall to 2-7. They're 0-5 on the road, and the Jets are 1-5 at home.
Well, I'm pretty sure all the fans of these teams putting their GM hats on don't want to win a third game either. I think they said, no, let's stay at 2-7. Let's try to pick as high as we can. Cleveland's kind of interesting. I'll start with them because I look at Joe Flacco, and the numbers were pretty bad when he was in a Browns jersey, and that's part of the reason why they moved him. They didn't really see any need to keep him around, give the young guys a chance to grow and thrive and see what you have at least for the future. But he goes to Cincinnati, and almost 4 days later, he's out here and he's playing some really good football. And the fact that he can kind of do it, they just kind of plug him in the base offense. And I'll argue, I think Cincinnati's got a little more talent, especially on the outside at receiver. But, if you're Cleveland, the idea is we got to compete with these guys, right? We can't be this far behind them. And it's just every Sunday. The offense wasn't bad. I'll give Dylan Gabriel a lot of credit. He's not a flashy guy, but he's consistent. He's going to complete a lot of passes, not a ton of yards, but he's not going to turn the ball over, and he's going to give you a chance to win games. And, it's a 3 phases football game, and they looked pretty good on offense for the most part. They looked very solid on defense for the most part, but like Joey said, the special teams fell apart, and they basically spotted them 14 points in the first quarter. Justin Fields had 54 passing yards, and 42 of those came on a screen pass for a touchdown to Breece Hall. If you look at these numbers and you lose that game as a coach, I don't even really know where you go from there. If you're the Jets, hey, kudos to them because they gutted their defense this week. They traded a lot of guys away, and they made the decision. They said, hey, we're gonna add some draft capital, and we're gonna try to build for next year and maybe see what we have. Garrett Wilson missed half this game. He re-aggravated his knee injury, and good for them. The Jets get a win at home, and they were just a little bit better than the Cleveland Browns on Sunday.
Well, they get to keep pace, not make up any ground on New England, who has surprised me. This is a surprise. They're 8-2, guys. 28-23 over Tampa. In Tampa, Buccaneers fall to 6-3, but they're just winning the old-fashioned way. Tough. Joey, first and foremost, let's talk a little bit about one of your nemesis, the New England Patriots, and just how impressive they've been. They get 1 touchdown in each of the 4 quarters, and that ends up being just enough for them to hold on against Tampa.
The fighting Vrabels are playing really well right now. They are 8-2. I don't think they've lost in a month or so. Offensively, Drake May is playing really well. People want to say he's the leading candidate for MVP. I'm going to push back on that because I've seen that quarterback in LA, in my opinion, for the Rams, not the Chargers. For the Rams, is the leading MVP candidate right now for me. And
you just like guys with gray beards. You just like that, right?
Yeah. But I'm not taking anything away from Drake May because he is playing high-level football. He's made some amazing throws, especially that throw in the end zone to
Diggs at the half. Yeah.
Yes, that was great. It was, he layered that perfectly with enough zip on it. He's done some really good things. And guess what? They can really run the ball. Their running back had 2 long touchdowns, and they're playing smart football. They're playing Mike Vrabel smart football, and I think that's been the key to their success so far. They're a young team, and again, they don't know they're not supposed to be winning right now.
Yeah, they're on house money. 270 yards in the air, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 1 sack. They rushed for 166 yards offensively. It's not the most impressive thing you've ever seen until you look at the scoreboard and then you look at their record, and that's pretty impressive, right, Brian?
I got to give a lot of credit here to Mike Vrabel. There was a story. I watched a video. I think they were talking. Julian Edelman has a podcast, and when he's doing his due diligence as far as the draft, they're meeting with guys and they're doing drills and they're doing specific stuff. And Joey, you know this, but they end up taking Will Campbell in the first round at LSU, offensive lineman. And Will had a private workout, and Vrabel was there. A couple other Patriots guys were there. And when they showed up, they said they got there early. Vrabel was in pads. He's holding the bags. He's holding everything. They're doing drills, and he's he is as immersed in it, almost like he's playing again. And I think a lot of the guys feed off of that. The gutsiness on the road to go down and say, hey, we've been stuffed 3 straight plays at the 1 yard line at the end of the first half. And a lot of coaches right there would say, we're going to take our 3 points, go into the locker room and do whatever. But to have the moxie to say, we got a young quarterback, we got Stephon Diggs, I don't really care, we're going to throw a fade in the end zone. It works. They end up getting their 14 points. And I think that was a huge momentum swing for them going into the second half. And it's just something that, you can't really teach that as a coach. You either got the moxie to do it or you don't. And I think Vrabel's done a phenomenal job. I'm not going to say he's Belichick-esque, but it's similar, right? It's close. And I think there's a certain attitude in the locker room. But I think these kids right now, especially on the Patriots side, I think they're fearless. I think Drake May is fearless. I don't think he's afraid to make any mistakes. And you can kind of see it. He's playing free football. Travion Henderson, who's kind of taken a backseat to Ramondre Stevenson, who has now missed the last 2 weeks with an injury. 2 big plays. He's kind of breaking out. The running game is really sharp. And, they beat a pretty good Tampa Bay team, and they were coming off their bye. Tampa Bay was at their place. And then, that's I know they're banged up. The Bucs are, but that's not a win to scoff at. The Patriots are the real deal. A very good chance they're hosting at least one, maybe multiple playoff games come January.
Yeah, they look very impressive. And by the way, you mentioned Vrabel and getting in the pads and all that kind of stuff and going for it on 4th down. Joey, you may have to correct me. Didn't he get like 6 or 7 touchdowns with Brady being the guy that would come in and play a wing and block one guy? Yes, they score a touchdown on the ground. And then they have a fake later on in the same ball game, and he finds himself open in the back of the end zone, and Brady hits him. I think his aggressiveness and learning how it worked before, we can do it again, has a part of what it takes to make it at this level from a coaching perspective, to earn the respect in the locker room that a coach like him demands.
Absolutely. I think, right. He would come in on short yardage and play tight end. And I think he's got about 7 touchdowns, at least 7 in his career playing tight end. So he's always got that to say when he's talking to offensive guys as a defensive head coach. But you talked about the fact at the workouts where he holds the bags. He puts pads on and holds the bag. And that's really a good trait. The really good coaches do that because you want to be able to feel the offensive lineman or the tight end. You want to be able to feel the power he has hitting the bag. Okay. You can see it. And we all say, it's a pillow fight sometimes with some of these guys, but if you can actually feel it by holding the bag and feeling the power and the thump that the offensive lineman or the tight end has and the rise that he has, this ability to roll his hip and throw his arms at the same time, that's a big trait. And the fact that the head coach can sit there and feel that and say, I like what this guy can do. Yeah. All those things are really positive.
That's usually what the assistant equipment guy that's been forced to go out to the workout has to do while everybody else watches. Joe, I bet you watched a few times. When's the last time you actually rolled up your sleeves and put the pad on and say, all right, come on, kid, hit me a
long time. A long time.
A long time. All right. Anyways, 8-2 for New England, 6-3 for Tampa Bay. Bucs. There's not a whole heck of a lot to worry about in the division because these two guys played each other. Falcons lose in Berlin, and then this is in Carolina. Brian, we'll start with you. 2-8. The New Orleans Saints end up getting a road division win. 17-7 is the final. Carolina had a chance really to get themselves right back where they needed to be. They haven't had their bye yet, but they fall to 5-5.
This Carolina team, every time I want to believe in them, they have a game like this where they had a chance to tie the Bucs for, at least in the win column for the division lead. And another one of these games, though, I look at Denver, right? We said, hey, it was a 10-7 win. It was ugly. It's a division game, but you get the win, right? At the end of the day, you end up getting the win. You pull it out. It's a W in the win column. And 2-3 weeks from now, we're not going to be talking about it. We're just going to look back on it and say, hey, they pulled it out. But Carolina is kind of the opposite sense, right? This is a game where I know New Orleans is a division opponent. They see you a lot. They play them very, very tough. There's some nastiness. There's a rivalry here, but 7 points at home isn't going to cut it against the New Orleans Saints. It's not. The Rams had more points that last week after their second possession. You can't do stuff like this. I can't have a hiccup and then a really good game and then a hiccup and a really good game. If you're going to compete, you got to have some consistency. And unfortunately for Carolina right now, their passing game is just a gigantic question mark. I don't know if Bryce Young has kind of gone in the opposite direction of Caleb Williams, where maybe mentally he's got to correct something in order to, bring his confidence back or whatever it is. But This team is struggling to move the ball other than Rico Dowdle, who's been a tremendous bright spot. And, if you're the Saints, they played as hard as they could. A lot of young guys. They end up trading Raheed Shaheed, so they're shorthanded at wide receiver, and they're able to go into Carolina, and they played a dominant game on defense. And they pull out a win in the division, which doesn't really help them all that much. But it's one where if you're a fan of the team, you enjoyed watching it for 3 hours on Sunday.
Tyler Shuff has 282 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, sacked twice. They run for 122. Not your greatest stat, but enough to win. And you mentioned Bryce Young. He was 17 or 25, 124 yards, Joey. No touchdowns again. It was an interception. He was sacked a couple times. Am I beginning to wonder, or is this something that has been going on for long enough to where you've already wondered whether or not he may be the right guy for Carolina at this time?
Well, it's a couple things at play here for me. First of all, I'm not a big fan of this offense, to be quite honest with you. And I don't think they have any real playmakers on the team. Okay, you have Bryce Young, who you want to anoint as the starting quarterback and be able to do a lot of things. And he's not a strong arm guy. I mean, he's a good football player. Don't get me wrong. He's a good – but if you're going to have a quarterback with that skill set, then give him some explosive playmakers. And I don't see any explosive playmakers on the field for Carolina, to be honest with you. Now, they do a pretty good job running the ball as of late. So I can respect that. But offensively, they don't scare you. Defensively, they're a pretty good football team. Okay. And I think this year, the Panthers, the fact that they had won 5 games coming into this, I think they were feeling themselves a little bit. Okay. They're like, okay, we're supposed to beat this New Orleans Saints team. They aren't playing very well. But New Orleans Saints have, they've already gone through some stuff. So they're trying to get themselves back together. And Carolina they're still at a position where they haven't had a lot of success in the past, and I don't think they know how to win football games yet. You can play up one week, you can play down one week, but rarely have they played a consistent football game this season. And I think it shows up in the worst times.
And first place teams learn how to hold on to first place because they play well enough to be able to win a game like this against a team that only had one win coming into it. So
team you should beat. You should beat these guys. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And they didn't. So they fall to 5-5, do the Carolina Panthers, and 2-8 now for New Orleans. And they're playing for the first round pick of the year award as well. All right, let's go to Houston, 36-29. Texans are 4-5 right now. Jacksonville falls to 5-4. Give me your thoughts here, Joey, on this one. A 26-point fourth quarter there for Houston. They really turned it on when they needed to get an extra win here in the season. They are 3-2 at home.
Well, I'll start with Houston. I mean, they picked it up in the second half, obviously. Danielle Hunter, I mean, he was coming after the quarterback with great frequency. Defensively, they turned it up. They really did. Offensively, the backup quarterback played well. I mean, he's a veteran now, per se. I mean, I think he's like a 4th or 5th year guy from Stanford, but he's played. He does enough to win. He's a smart guy. He can do things with his legs, and they played pretty well. Jacksonville is kind of who they're coming back to, who I really thought they would be all along. The quarterback is kind of leveled off. I mean, he's had 1 or 2 really solid games, and then after that, he's kind of played average football. And he, like I said, he played average football when they beat the Raiders last week. It wasn't great. It was just better than average. And then last week, similar fashion, their best receiver was out, I believe, last week. So I'm not sure what to make of Jacksonville, other than the fact that I would be surprised if they actually made it to the playoffs this year, because they're another team that kind of plays. I don't want to say they plays to the level of competition, because they kind of are that level of competition that people come down and play to where they're playing instead of them playing up to other teams, although they did do that versus Kansas City. So I do have to give them credit for that. But I'm just not really impressed with what Jacksonville is doing right now, because they're a bipolar football team.
They look a little bit better than average, and sometimes they look a little bit below average. Brian, I'm going to bypass this because the next one here, I know you've got a lot to say. You're very impressed with the Seahawks. This game was over pretty much from a scoring perspective wise before the first quarter ended. 44-22 is the final. Seattle is 7-2 right now. Arizona falls to 3-6, but 21-17, 0 and 6 points is your 44. So they get 38 to not 38-7 at the half. This is a blowout. And Seattle's defense is, tell me why they are better than what everybody expects them to be right now. They are very, very, they're loaded.
They're clicking. They're clicking on all cylinders. It's a collective effort. The front four play really, really well, and the linebackers feed off of that. And in the secondary, they're able to kind of play some ball hawking kind of defense in the back end there. Sam Darnold didn't do much of anything on Sunday. Nobody on the offense really did. The defense was spectacular. I had to double check. I thought maybe there was something wrong with the ticker that Fox has, because I was like, there's 35. There's still 8 minutes left in the second quarter. There's no way it's 35-0, right? And it was. And the game was over. And to have that kind of luxury to where, you're never going to take your foot off the gas, but they threw, I think it was 5 passes in the first quarter. I think they threw 3 in the second, and then they threw 2 total passes in the second half because said, hey, we're going to run the ball. We're going to get out of here. We're going to stay healthy. Arizona, thank you for the win. But we're on to bigger and better things. And this team is rolling right now. I don't think there's the hotter team than the Seattle Seahawks right now. A little bit under the radar too. Now we watched them in prime time because they steamrolled Washington last week. Just Sam Darnold had 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, just 7 days prior. This team is just, there's not really a whole lot of weaknesses other than their running game kind of needs to figure it out a little bit. But I've made it clear what I feel as far as Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think he might be the best receiver in the league right now. Now, obviously, you got like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. They have their cases to be made, but this dude is just a machine every single week. Sam Darnold's on his redemption tour, and if you're a fan of Seattle right now, it's grinning ear to ear because there's a lot of good football that you're watching week in and week out.
Division opponent, Joey, they fall by the wayside. Really a couple of 15 second half points, too little too late, but Brian makes an interesting point. They're one of the best teams, but guess what? Next week, they're going to go against their other best team. They've got a division game against the Rams. We'll talk about them next, but give me your perspective here on Seattle right now.
Well, I don't know what else I can say about Seattle. Defensively, they're playing really good ball. I mean, the kid they got from Dallas scored twice defensively. Then you have Leonard Williams in the middle. Like you said, the linebackers are playing well. You have cornerbacks that have length, that can play man-to-man coverage, that can do whatever they like. So defensively, as well as they're playing, offensively, when they're in sync, they're as good as anybody. With Darnold, Smith, and Jigma, they're as good as anybody. Their offensive line is playing really well. And the Cardinals, I don't know what to make of the Cardinals. I know they would like for the kid that is replacing the quarterback to be the guy, but he's shown throughout his career that he can't be the guy.
Jacoby
Brissett has shown that he can't be the guy. I mean, I think we have enough sample size on Jacoby over the last 6 or 7 years to know that he is not a starting quarterback.
He's not your number one. Yeah, right.
He's a good bridge guy. He's a good gap filler, but yeah.
Right. In the NFL. So if Kyler Murray is not your guy, and if I'm Kyler, I probably don't want to come back there anyway. To be quite honest with you, I think for him to reach his full potential, he's going to have to reach it with another organization. I don't think he can do it there in Arizona. So I think at some point at a quarterback position that they're going to need a total reset. I don't know what the draft capital looks like, but in the next year or two, they're going to need a quarterback. And I think that's where it starts. Now, I know when the season started, they could run the ball. They don't run the ball quite as effectively now as they did then with the injuries that they've had at that position. But and obviously they need to improve their offensive line. Their best defensive lineman is, 38 years old, 39 years old. So, they despite the feel-good story they've had most of the year because they've been close. They've been a bridesmaid, not much of a bride. It's going to be tough for the Cardinals.
Yeah, they've got a long way to go. And then when you look up, you see San Francisco, you see LA, you see Seattle, and how are we going to overpass all three of those at the same time? But 44-22, as we mentioned, the final there. 7-2 is Seattle, and guess who else is 7-2? We'll stay with you, Joey. Rams end up with what I would consider to be a nice road win in San Francisco. 42-26 is the final here. It was 21-7 at the half, and the Rams score another 3 touchdowns in the second half. Matthew Stafford has one of those games where you just go, is there anything this guy can't do? He looks smooth. The game is slowed up for him. He finds guys. He still can move enough. His arm is still strong enough. Again, a gray-beard guy that, everybody knows he's getting a little bit older, but he's playing with a passion right now that is so fun to watch and makes the league an enjoyable place to be on a Sunday afternoon, right?
That's right. He had an interview last week where he said the game has he's at this point in his career where he's seen most of the defense coordinators, if not all, in the league. And he kind of knows what they're trying to do to him, and he's got to answer for all that. He's played long enough that he feels like he's got to answer, and he plays that way. I mean, he is, I want to say, the only quarterback in maybe NFL history who's had 4 games this year of 4 touchdown passes and 0 interceptions. I mean, that's saying something. I mean, this league's been going on a long time, and he's had 4 games with 4+ touchdown passes and 0 interceptions. That's why he's currently my league MVP. He's the leader in the clubhouse. He's just ahead of Jonathan Taylor, and I would put the other guy third right now in New England.
Do me a favor, Joey. I played with Deion Sanders for a couple years here in Atlanta, and here's a guy that can run a 4.19 right in the 40. So even when Deion is getting a little bit older, he can still run a 4.4 any time that he wants to.
Right.
He can run with just about everybody in the league with pads on. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And Stafford, people forget, there were only a couple of guys in the league, Drew Brees being one of them, who had repeat 5,000-yard years. And guess who the other is? It's Matthew Stafford. So even if he's getting older and slowing down, he may not be able to throw 89 yards every time, but he can throw 68 with as good as anybody that's out there. And sometimes that's all you need. Even when he's slowing down and not able to do the same things, he doesn't have the same speed, doesn't have the same arm strength, but he's seen the field so well. And I think there's a chip on his shoulder. I know what you're going to try to do, offensive or defensive coordinator. I know what you're going to do. I'm going to do it before you break the huddle. I know where the blitz is going to come from. And he just relaxes and gets it done. That's so impressive.
And he throws darts. I mean, the velocity of the arm strength hasn't decreased with his advanced age. He's still playing at a really high level. He's showing you things in the play action game where he's rolling out. He's not running, but he's getting out in space to throw the ball away. I mean, he really looks good. And again, Kyron Williams running the ball. You got a couple of receivers. You got a tight end that's coming along pretty well. And again, the Rams and the Seahawks, who have not played at all yet this season, will play twice in the next 5 weeks coming down the stretch. Those would be really good football games. That's going to be the best game of the week next week.
Yeah, that's must-see TV. In the fourth quarter, 12 points for the 49ers to kind of make it close. But Brian, you had mentioned something. Can you imagine what practices are like when you got a guy like Stafford going, now here's how Robotron ran this route? When Calvin just kind of hooked it when he's 6'5" and he's 240 and he runs a 4.3 whatever, and he's the strongest guy on the field and he's got 1% body fat. You, as a young Ram receiver, you're going, I better shut up and just do what this guy tells me to do because he's been around long enough. He does have a Super Bowl ring. It wasn't in Detroit, but the experience now of just, hey, run it here. I'll throw you open. I'll be able to get you the ball. I just need to know where you're going to be, and you better be where you show me that you're going to be. They're practicing better, obviously, and that 42 points against the team that they had to beat, again, very impressive.
Well, when you look at Stafford, he was the quarterback for 2 of the greatest statistical seasons of all time as far as wide receivers. When you go to Calvin Johnson, like you mentioned, and then Cooper Kupp, who had one of the best years ever, seemingly out of nowhere, right? And a lot of it has to do with just Stafford, like the interview Joey's talking about. He's got the answers to the test, right? He's been around so long, he understands what everybody's trying to do. Whereas with Calvin, he could just kind of throw it up, right? If it's double coverage, I don't really care. I'm going to give him an opportunity to make a play. But as he progresses and as he learns more and as he develops more and as he understands what teams are trying to do to stop him. And he's played against everybody. He says, hey, Cooper, they're going to try to take it out here. So what I want you to do is instead of cutting at 12, cut it at 11, get inside him, and I'm going to hit you right on the numbers. And to be able to, like for Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams and a lot of these young receivers and these young tight ends they have, to be able to pick his brain, right? And to say, hey, Matthew, what do you think that I need to do? And him just, making sure that he can get them the ball where it needs to be and understanding what teams are going to try to do to stop them. It's another, give credit to Sean McVay too, right? Because he's drawing all this up and he's keeping everybody on the same page. But, what Stafford has been able to do is spectacular. And very quietly, he's having one of the best careers of quarterback of all time. He's definitely going to be up there as far as the numbers are concerned when it's all said and done. But he's looking like, the fastball still got some juice, like Joey mentioned. He could probably still play at least a couple more years. And, the Rams are rolling. This is a pretty good San Francisco team. I know Purdy didn't play and they're a little banged up at the receiver position, but that really hasn't stopped the Niners to getting where they were now. This is a game that had major playoff implications because San Francisco was right on their heels coming into Sunday as far as the division standings. And, they're both vying for playoff position, but Seattle and LA, like we mentioned, they're two of the hottest teams in football right now, and just two juggernauts seemingly going at each other. They're going to meet on Sunday. It's going to be good football. It's going to be exciting to watch, just to kind of see where both teams are and see who takes the edge in the division.
Yeah, Matthew at 9 games into this season has 2,427 yards, 25 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. He's been sacked 14 times. So if the season were doubled, he'd be at about 4,800. And I'm wondering if there's a point later on in the year where he kind of catches himself, says, I'm going to throw for 325 today, as opposed to settling for whatever. But they've got Seattle, Tampa, Carolina, Arizona, Detroit, Seattle, Atlanta, and then Arizona in their last remaining games of the season. So it'll be interesting to see what he's able to do. For obvious reasons, the closer he gets to 5,000, the closer he gets to 50 touchdowns, the closer he gets to playoff time, none of that's going to matter as much as it is basically, are we still going to be in position to win the division? But they're certainly there right now with a big game against Seattle next week. Another team that is impressive, and as we mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, Detroit is leading the division now, and they end up going to Washington. 44-22 is the final. All systems go, Joey, for Detroit right now, and the Commanders are certainly a different club than when they were playing at this point last year.
Well, interestingly enough, the head coach took over the offensive play calling duty Sunday, and that's why I think you saw the offense play with a little more aggressive nature. They took over the
Did they bite kneecaps offensively? Were they biting kneecaps and just kicking people and pushing them around?
Oh, yeah. They played a lot more aggressively. Yeah. Jameson Williams was excited about the way they played. The running back
Gibbs
had as many yards as he's had almost all year between rushing and passing, receiving. So I think they enjoyed that new energy, that new play calling strength, and Washington's in a bad spot right now. They're Payne got kicked out of the game for taking a swing at I'm on
St. Brown,
St. Brown. So it was. I think they're in a bad spot right now. I know their leader's out, and I think they're feeling it in a lot of different areas. But this game was all about Detroit, a lot less about Washington, what they couldn't do. It was more about what Detroit did and could do. And offensively, they played like they were playing last year when Ben Johnson was calling the plays.
Yeah, very interesting perspective there. 6-3, Brian. Not a perfect game. 320 yards, though. That's pretty nice. 3 touchdowns for Goff, no interceptions. Are they starting to pick it up when they need to, right? A little bit of a lull or a slumber during the first half of the season, and now it's time to really kick it into gear. They certainly did there on the road.
Yeah, they're getting a lot. They're building momentum, right? This is a team that's saying, hey, listen, we've got some unfinished business as far as the playoffs are concerned and getting to a Super Bowl, right? Because that's the end goal for them. Very, very close a couple years ago. This division obviously was very tight last year. So, in the thick of it again, they're used to this sort of competition, right? They're used to having teams kind of chase them as far as the other direction. Now, they've leapfrogged the Packers again, but they kind of had to fight to do so. Because remember, all of us, we talk about Green Bay kind of being the Super Bowl favorite, right? They looked really, really good. You get Micah Parsons. They beat up on them week 1. And I think they kind of took that a little bit to heart and a little bit personally, right? And if you look at where this team was week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, they've improved every single week. The offense looks a lot cleaner. Everything's more crisp. Everyone's getting involved. Jamison Williams had a phenomenal game. Joey mentioned he's a guy that when he gets going and he takes the top off the defense, this team is so much better. And it opens everything up more so for Amon-Ra St. Brown and the intermediate stuff and their ability to run the ball. Washington's struggling right now. They're reeling. They've lost 3 games in a row by 20-plus points. They're not playing very well. The injury to Jay McDaniels last week was unfortunate. I hope he gets well as quickly as possible. But this is a game, I've mentioned a couple times, the game they had circled on the calendar. This is a game we should win. We should dominate this game. And they did. They dominated from the outright. And they did everything they wanted to offensively. Dan Campbell called a great game. Elliott's calling plays. He did a phenomenal job. Jared Goff played really, really well. Both running backs got involved. Jahmyr Gibbs had a very quiet, phenomenal football game. And this is a team that say we're going to take the division back, I think, and we got to keep winning some games because we got the Bears nipping at our heels and the Packers are right there too. They know this, and I think they're just – the defense was sneakily good as well. The Washington scored a couple times late, but this Lions team is rolling. They're clicking on all cylinders, and they're moving in the right direction, pushing towards the second half and the end of the season.
Yeah, well, Detroit going in the right direction, and certainly Commander fans are reeling that they're not. Hey, the Chargers are 7-3 after a 3-0 start. They lose to the Giants and the Commanders back to back. They beat the Dolphins. They lose to the Colts, and now they won 3 in a row again. I was thinking that with injuries and especially Alt going and the offensive line kind of struggling. Maybe they're not as good as I thought, but boy, did they play well enough to they really toyed with your Steelers a little bit, Joey. I'm not saying the Steelers, no disrespect to them at all, but boy, they struggled there at SoFi.
They struggled, in my opinion, both offensively and defensively. Especially defensively, the second half. They held their own the first half, but the second half they struggled defensively. But offensively, the Steelers weren't able to run the ball as effective as they needed to be. And again, if you can't get the ball to DK Metcalf, there's not another really dependable receiver that can get open. I mean, Freiermuth can get open as a tight end. I mean, a little bit. The big guy from Georgia, he's got great hands, but
Washington.
He's running in quicksand most of the time. So it's really tough for them to create separation. Austin can do that, but Austin has feet for hands sometimes. So, he had one hit off his chest, threw his hands off his chest, and intercepted. So, offensively, they're struggling. And, again, I'm going to reiterate this. I really hate that they didn't find a way to give up a draft pick to get a receiver opposite of DK Metcalf, because I think it would have helped open up the whole offense had they done that. And I'm sure they tried maybe with some guys and felt like the price was too high, but the price of winning beats the price of a third-round draft pick that you might not have next year. So you got to play for what you're preparing for now.
There'll be some guys that are cut in training camp that you can pick up that have better than third-round pedigrees to them. They got to keep pace with the Broncos, Brian. I'm impressed with with the LA Chargers. It's not just uniforms. There's a lot of things that they're starting to do right. Their defense is stout. They can throw the ball well. They can run it well. They've got pretty good special teams. So Harbaugh is just one of those guys that you just wait till later. Just watch us as the season progresses.
Yeah, I got to give him a lot of credit. He's kind of doing what Kyle Shanahan has been doing in San Francisco, where it's sort of a week-to-week ordeal based on whoever they have available, right? They've had a lot of injuries. They're pretty banged up, especially on the offensive line front. But I think, surprisingly, this defense has played really, really well so far, and they've kept them in a lot of games. And they've done a really good job of kind of dominating from the outset. Defensively, they look very, very good on Sunday. They look very, very good against Minnesota. When you play good defense, you can run the ball. And I know another injury, Omarion Hampton, who was phenomenal in the first month of the season for them. He's out until, maybe they're open week 11, week 12. They're not sure yet, but they're plugging and playing guys, and it's working. It's not the prettiest thing in the world. It's not perfect football, but they're doing enough to win football games, and they're very quietly 7-3. And they're a team that, at some point people are going to have to start paying more attention to them, because if they keep winning football games, they're going to find themselves in the playoffs. And, from there, anything could happen.
Well, speaking of playoffs, we're not there yet. We've got a long way to go. But if you were looking at your playoff leaders right now, New England is 8-2 in the AFC East. The North is Pittsburgh, 5-4. They're still in first place. Indianapolis Colts at 8-2 in the South, and the Denver Broncos in the AFC West. In the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles are 7-2. They are in first place. Detroit and Chicago are both tied in the North. They're 6-3. Tampa Bay at 6-3 is leading the South. And you have two teams, Seattle and the Los Angeles Rams, that are leading the West. Before we go, final thoughts from each of you. Joe, if you don't mind, let's start with you. Week 10, the summary and a recap from you.
Week 10 was pretty entertaining. You had a couple blowouts, but for the most part, it was pretty good football. The week started like it ended with a 10-7 score by the teams. 10 points won games and 7 points lost games in the first game and the last game of the week. But going down the stretch, we're going to have some good football starting next week with the Rams and the Seahawks. So yeah, I'm excited to see where the season goes. I think we kind of know where everybody is, where their strengths and weaknesses are. So it's going to be entertaining going down the stretch.
Yeah, and AFC, Brian, New England, Indianapolis, and Denver. I wouldn't have thought at the beginning of the year that those would be the three names that I'd be calling out for leaders. Maybe the Steelers, but certainly a very interesting perspective right now from the AFC standings. Give me your thoughts there.
It's kind of wide open. I mean, you look at Denver. I think they're kind of, record-wise, right? They're right up there with Indianapolis, but Kansas City could beat them on Sunday, and I wouldn't be surprised. The Chargers could beat them. I wouldn't be surprised. I think these teams are very evenly matched. I think it's going to make for some really good playoff football once we get to that point. I think we got a couple of head-to-head matchups between all these teams still before the season lets out, but the Colts don't do anything too flashy, right? They're not going to do anything too special, but the way they block up front, and they can just run everybody over, and they seem to get stronger as the game goes on, right? The good teams are going to run the football, and they're going to beat the crap out of you for the first 2-3 quarters. In the fourth quarter, when you're tired, they're going to run it down your throat. That's what Indianapolis did on Sunday. They've done it all year. It's a formula for success. That's why they're the leader in the AFC. Patriots are interesting too. The NFC is wide open as well. There's probably 7 teams on each side that I wouldn't be surprised to be hoisting the Lombardi come February. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And it's going to be a lot of fun to, enjoy the ride until we get there.
Well, there you have it, folks. A Week 10 summary with the National Football League. It ended with a 10-7 victory where Philadelphia ends up beating Green Bay in Lambeau Field, and Philadelphia Eagles go to 7-2. So that caps the Week 10 preview that we have, and we've enjoyed being a part of it. Week 11 will be next week. We'll return at the same time, right after your Monday Night Football game, and we look forward to being a part of that with you. So for Joey Clinkscales, former general manager, former trash can taker-outer, former personnel director, scout, everything. He's done it all. We appreciate him. And obviously Brian LeBel, who takes out the trash as well, mows the lawn, does all the things that you need to do. We're probably going to do a little painting tomorrow. I got some things that we got to do around the house, but we appreciate you being a part of the show. We want to thank you for being a part of 100 Yards of Football. This has been the NFL Wrap-Up for Week 11. Have a